Hello and good day to everybody. Hope you're all doing awesome. Today, we are happy to present to you the second episode for an entrepreneur's journey. We will be discussing starting to fill a need. Um, Now, if you haven't heard the first episode yet, the first episode is about why build a business. And in that episode, we talked about a few topics, and some of them include time, the importance of time, the employee versus employer mindset, how to use the skills you have and the skills you know to build a system. And the last topic was navigating the financial aspects of decision making, and how you can put the systems in place to create a business of your own. Some of the anecdotes from our previous conversation included benefits of having a virtual office space and getting rid of the office environment, some of the drawbacks of the work from home, and why in some ways it forced people to come back to work, the benefits of long vacations, working outside your business instead of inside your business, and having a vision and mission. So in today's podcast, we're excited to talk about a few topics that could really encourage you to be creative and get in the flow. So a few of the topics that we've come up with are service leads to greatness, and how you can help and retain equitable recognition for your work and add value to people's lives. The second one would be copy greatness. And there's a very good quote from Steve Jobs where he says, good artists copy, great artists steal. So the goal is to find out what your competitors are doing and get some ideas and copy or steal some of those ideas and make it unique to yourself and to your business. And then we're also going to talk about authenticity and the intentional approach model on how you can make the idea your own. And finally, we will give a few examples of some success stories out there and compare apples to oranges. So this is what we'll be discussing today. Byron, it's a pleasure to have you here today and collaborate with you on this podcast. And I just wanted to get your thoughts and insight on, what motivates you and what keeps you going.
I think it developed. Well, first off, thank you, man. Appreciate the introduction and being able to navigate kind of the scope that we want to be able to present. It was very important for me to figure out how to build something that can last for my family and also really give value back to the world. I think that was really important for me to find a balance in between those two. But I had to admit that the artist in me wanted to be able to have some sort of recognition for some of the work that I was able to provide. Now, that put me in a very interesting place. Throughout my time in educational institutions, really what my focus was to really understand history, understand how to navigate the institution, and share that information with the people that I was around. They may have not been from my direct community, but they were from the communities that had more of an affinity from the places that I came from than the places that I was going to school at currently. And when I was able to go to those spaces in Northeast Portland, I was able to experience the world in a way, maybe not in all ways, that I felt kind of at home or that I could have some sort of different level of expression. And so I found that the work that I wanted to do in my business had to align with being able to give back to those institutions. And when I worked at those institutions, I realized that they were not necessarily made for me, because I went to those institutions as a youngster coming up, and then also being able to experience it as a professional behind the scenes. I recognize that the spaces were not made for me, um, and who I am is a complexity of different things. But what I mean by that was they did not address the elephant in the room, which was really just culture and history. Not that they always apply, but where they do apply, being able to dive deep into those and go into that rabbit hole. So I realized that my value that I was going to provide to the world really dealt with creating spaces, and what that looks like for me starting off was really interesting because I went to school outside of the place where I came from. So I was gone for a while, and redeveloping the relationships was something that takes time. And so taking the time to redevelop relationships, all the while being in a position where I want to be able to service people, uh, was really important to me. And it wasn't something that I did immediately when I came back home. It took a lot of exposure to listening to a lot of self-development information for me to realize how to navigate my time and how to navigate my space in a place where was familiar but was very foreign. I wanted to be able to serve the communities, but you have to figure out the hierarchies of how things get done in the different spaces. I've been gone for a while, so it was interesting to learn about that. And that was really important for me. So I got into a lot of places where I just provided insight. I was able to do some presentations for people because I understood, and I came to understand that where I can provide a service and share with people the insight that I know and share with them how I care, then the services that I provide hold more weight because they understand why I'm there. It's not that I'm there for anyone or not for anyone else. I'm just here to make sure that things work. And if I'm in a space where I want to see that place work or see this community work, I want to provide insight that someone in a space that sees things from a top-down perspective can take advantage of it and make sure that it's implemented so that everyone is able to reap the benefits in that community. But that takes time and relationships and relationship building. It takes you getting to know people and not asking for anything. It takes you doing a lot of work and not really asking for anything back. It takes a lot of that. And at some point, from those moments that you have experienced to learn things and be exposed to realities and presentations that are, kind of on the fly, and being able to share a message with people, it takes you knowing about the situation. And I think once you know how things are going down on every single level, then you can have a well-rounded approach. And that's what I feel like service leading to greatness means. And that's kind of inspired by, I believe his name is Jim Rohn. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he says this. I heard it from another person named Wesley Virgin. But it's an interesting concept. It's like service leads to greatness. In the spaces where you're able to provide a service to the community, that is really like an elevation of the space. Like that's interdimensional elevation, being able to share insight and an idea that can change the way people live, for the better. Hopefully, that's always my approach. And we all have our things that we work through, and so that's really cool as well. Like the being the symbol of redemption for anyone going through their process where they've had their ebbs and flows. The concept of redemption is powerful. And when you serve, you understand that redemption is, just a choice away sometimes. So we have to start there. And when you start there, you understand where your need is. I realize, how do I build something that's recession proof? It's like, just provide the essentials, right? It's like, just make sure everyone is good. And I think you referred to that before in some of our conversations, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Being able to, whether or not that's like a fully dynamic diagram of how human social dynamics are, but maybe it grasps a large scope of it, in the sense of being able to provide a nurturing space, like checking all these boxes so that you can develop through experience. That's not to say that people who don't experience those things haven't created greatness, but it's not about always putting people in the same place that you were when you were younger. Sometimes it's about teaching them of those experiences, but having them start at a different platform. So that's all we're doing this for. It's like teaching the generations, for sure.
I like it. And teaching these kind of experiences, you cannot learn that from college, right? Academic institutions are not designed for entrepreneurs. Academic institutions fail entrepreneurs. And you pick up these skills from learning in the real world, through experience, through failures. And it's very important that when you have an idea and you want to generate wealth from creating a company, the initial goal is to think about how you can add value and how your service can lead to greatness. Because business owners that start a company with the intention of making a lot of money, and the end goal is to make money, that's not going to be a very long-lived business. Businesses that fulfill a purpose, add value to people's lives, change the world for a better place, those are the kind of businesses that will survive. If the focus and the intention is to add value to people's lives, you will get to many places. And I like how you said providing insight from the top-down perspective, because everybody benefits from it. Sometimes you need someone who is a visionary, who can see the whole picture and help guide you to doing things in a very strategic way. It's very difficult for a lot of people to find their own inner voice, but having someone who can help you get an eagle's eye perspective on what the long-term vision and goal is something that could change a lot of things about your life, your perspective, and how you can set goals and ambitions for yourself. And a lot of it has to do with selflessness. Initially, you will be working for free, or you'll be working for less pay, but you have to put your name in the world. And when I had my first few clients for Offsite Team, I didn't charge them a lot of money. I wanted to make sure that I was able to deliver the results that they were looking for. I was able to find them someone that was compatible with their business, because my business is in the staffing space and I find virtual assistants for entrepreneurs. There is a lot of legwork that goes behind the process, and the process involves, the first process is having a diagnostic call with the prospect and understanding their pain points and why they want to make a hiring decision, why they want to hire a virtual assistant. Once I understand their pain points and their needs, I'm able to create and flesh out a scope of work for them that can actually benefit their business and help them long term. And then once I have like a flesh out of a job description, I'm able to have my internal team advertise this and post this on different social media platforms so that we can get candidates who are interested in applying for this position submit their application. And then once I would get the applications, I would have to manually review them to make sure that it fits the criteria of what the client is looking for. But I'd also have to invest a lot of money in paying for an assessment tool to assess the candidate's technical abilities, personality fit, emotional intelligence, because this is an important step, because sometimes, a lot of the times actually, when people create resumes, they over-exaggerate what they're good at. But once you put them on a test, you understand where they fare on the spectrum. And this significantly helps you make better hiring decisions, and it allows you to shortlist candidates. After that process is done, I would interview the candidates who were shortlisted from the hundreds of applicants who applied for the specific job. And after running some background checks and conducting a few interviews, if I feel like they were confident enough to work for the client, I would then schedule the interview with the client and pick the 2 or 3 best candidates that I found for the client. It did involve a lot of work, but it was very fruitful, because when the prospect would actually interview the candidates, they were quite amazed with their experience, the expertise, the communication style of the virtual assistant. And for me, it was
thorough.
Yes, it had to be very thorough, because at the end of the day, when you staff someone for a company, there has to be some kind of personality match, and finding someone that is compatible with a CEO is very important, because that's when a relationship of trust can start building. So it was definitely a very tedious process, and it's not like something I figured out overnight, but eventually it led to me creating a strategic system in place that allows me to find candidates in a short period of time for anyone who is looking to hire, let's say, an administrative assistant with a certain set of software experiences, because I was able to build a pipeline of candidates. So the first few clients that I acquired in the business, even though it's not like I made any profit from them, it helped me understand their needs better, and it helped me scope out some important strategic decisions in my business that helped me impress the clients even better, and it helped me create better customer experiences for future clients that would eventually subscribe to my services. And providing service is what led to this business becoming fruitful. And had it not been me, doing a lot of the grunt work myself initially, I would have not been able to outsource the work that I was doing, because doing the grunt work yourself allows you to create systems in place. And once you have the systems in place, then automation gets very easy. So that was my journey with how I helped business owners and put myself out there. I would attend every prospect meeting that I would get through LinkedIn or no matter where it is, and I would be available. And there were many times that the other person on the other side was selling me something, but it was a great experience because I was here to network. And as an early stage entrepreneur, I think networking is very important. No matter who you're interfacing with, whether it's actually a lead or whether it's someone who's actually trying to sell you something, just being present in those meetings allows you to develop some kind of insight if the person on the other end of the spectrum does not need the services that you're offering, maybe he or she might know someone else that can benefit from the services that you're offering. And the whole purpose of being an entrepreneur is to network with people, whether they're a customer or whether they're not a future customer. At least at the early stages, networking with everybody is important. And then once you have a set of systems in place, you can then adjust your schedule accordingly, where you can have someone else do some of the meetings for you, or you can take only the meetings that matter to you the most. But without doing, without that groundwork during the early stages where you're burning the midnight oil and working long hours, it would have not been possible for me to create a set of systems in place that would allow me to automate certain processes and make it more seamless. So yeah, that was
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with you. For sure, you have to know how everything works to be able to develop the system. The one thing that I would say probably differs was I definitely because I wanted a level of understanding of how the currency worked, not for the fact of like parties and things like that, like blowing the money. It's that we're navigating through right now, and there's the language that's occurring. Able to navigate and the language, it really changes our approach on this world. I'm just gonna put it that way. But you have to understand how everything is navigating. You can't shy away from something being lower or higher than you because it's all a part of us. And once we start understanding that, get more educated on the process, we get more confident on our approach, and we understand the value that we provide. It's about providing value, and you've been providing value in your life in some way, fashion, or another. So now it's just about finding a way to, I guess, like get the opportunity out of the air, the currency, like capture the currency, like get a receiver, if you will, on the way information is processed, because information is being exchanged right now. Right now, that information could be an opinion. Well, it's usually always an opinion, right? But that information can be an opinion. It can be insight on a certain process, on the space that you're in, the land that you're in. And when my family's most originally came to the States from Nicaragua. And I always try and tell myself that they probably came here for us to have a better life than they did, right? Now, part of that process is us understanding the laws of the land. Like, we have to understand the space that we're in and knowing how to navigate what that looks like for us. Once we understand what that looks like for us, then we are essentially standing on the shoulders of our ancestors. We're standing on the shoulders of our parents, because their hard work, grit, determination brought us this opportunity. Now, is there other opportunities in other countries? Of course, but they chose the opportunity here. So I took that upon me for me to say, what are the things that I've learned throughout my college experience, high school experience, any type of experience that I've had, and how can I bring that back to my family in some fashion, whether or not it's immediately received or not. I think it was important for me to understand how to set a marker, like set a stamp, and in time I just want to be able to provide the value, aside from all the things that I've been able to do, good or bad, based on perspective. I think it's really great to just think about the concept of redemption. Like
Yep.
Malcolm X, just like the concept of being able to have a redemptive life and provide value to the space. Now, that artistic expression looks different for different people.
Yep.
But in that same way, we use those figures and people, those spirits, as an inspiration, which is like copying that greatness, because everyone has a piece of something that we can learn from. So as I'm starting to figure out how to fill this need, how do I provide clothes, how do I provide shelter, energy, I'm looking back at the people that inspired me, ancient civilizations or civilizations that are considered ancient, and those civilizations that I'm directly connected to. How do I look at the technology? Because the technology, like communication is the technology. It's a form of technology. When we look at the forms of technology that they had, the agricultural technology, the agricultural understanding of how the world is working right now, and how to really survive and be nourished and plentiful, understanding how that works is different, because we don't experience that in the same way now. Food comes from the grocery stores. So
Yep.
our technological understanding of how the universe is working, and plants and animals, and it is really one thing I wanted to do, was be able to like combine, have a synergy of an ancient perspective of the universe and the world, and integrate that into a space where you're capturing the currency. I don't know
Yep.
if you caught that, but
Yeah.
being able to like combine those, like have a modern perspective
Hmm.
towards that ancient approach of life. That was really great for me. And um, there are some modern people who kind of have that similar perspective.
Yeah.
Some architects that I follow, well, there's not too many architects that I follow. Um, I like to, I, I don't really like to follow them necessarily, just like see their work as inspiration, um, because they're kind of just like us in another form, right? But Frank Lloyd Wright, definitely someone who I really enjoy his modern work, and adaptation of integrating nature and modern creativity.
Yep.
But I also
Yep.
love this, like the simplicity that people have. I think that's like truly avant-garde, being able to have that different level of expression. Well, that's my level, or my form currently. Um,
I love it.
is that complete synergy and integration. It's really cool. I love that concept. So for me, it's like how do I feel need, and starting off with clothes was really cool for me, because I had a design space where I could integrate thought patterns and images and symbols onto things that I wear. So
Mhm.
here's like, Hetepu is like, being able to develop that is like something I've always dreamed of. And that coming into fruition, that's like materialization of that dream that I had when I was 6. That's really amazing. And that's in itself is inspiration. Whether or not someone buys from me, they see that I did it, and they can
Yeah.
do it.
I
Being
really
able
like
to
the
fill that
idea.
need sometimes is just being you, you know?
Yeah. That's really cool. I like the idea when you talked about, combining ancient art with modern technology. And that's very important because only very few companies have gotten that right. And, one of the examples is Apple. Um, they combined a lot of ancient technology and they fused it with modern technology. And one of the guys who was involved with the development of the iPhone, his name was Scott Forstall. And What he did was he focused on something called skeuomorphism. Now, skeuomorphism is basically combining ancient with modern, and an example of what skeuomorphism is for the iPhone, for example, if you look at the calculator app, it looks like a physical calculator. And it's just an app, but if you click on it, it opens up a calculator. The same thing with, let's say, the app for contacts. The contacts kind of looks like a book with different labels. But that's just an example. And the clock app, for example, looks like an ancient clock. But all those designs that they captured were from actual products that are physical in nature, but they were able to make those physical appearances and make it the face of the app. So I think that's a really cool concept, and playing around with an ancient concept and being able to implement it in modern art and modern technology, that's just very profound. So
symbols are
glad you brought
powerful,
that up.
man. Yeah, symbols are definitely powerful. As we know, for sure, we see a lot of symbols everywhere we go. Logos, or rather.
And I also like the fact that you touched on, your ancestors and why they chose America, to do business. And this is a land of opportunity for a lot of people. But more importantly, when you have heritage, or when you have family that have immigrated to the US, they worked very hard to get here. And part of that hard work is encoded in your DNA. And it makes you want to do something that's even extraordinary to pass on the baton, because knowing that your ancestors struggled and they worked very hard and they made sacrifices that led to your beautiful life, you want to give back. And one way to give back is through creating a company that will allow you to add value to people's lives. I think when people start companies in the early stages, a lot of them want to just shoot for the moon, and they keep saying, I want to work with these big clients that have at least $1 million in revenue. In order to get those clients, you have to sometimes work for clients that have a lower budget, because when you are able to add value to even the smallest of clients, you have a proof of concept, you have a portfolio, you have a case study that you can use to acquire more clients in that niche. And eventually you can branch out and get the bigger clients once you have a solid strategy in place that allows you to showcase what you've done and the value you've added to the other businesses. And then when you have more opportunities, when you have more luck with prospecting with bigger companies, you can eventually, aim for the big apples, right? But I'd say very early on, I think what's important is copying the greatness, seeing what other companies are doing, and it's called competitive research or competitive analysis, understanding who your 5 to 10 best competitors are, and learning from their art, learning from their systems, learning from what they're doing, what their reviews are, what their strategy is, what the services they're offering, and understanding them, and maybe picking a few of their ideas and putting it in your portfolio, but putting it in such a way where it doesn't feel like it's copied. It feels authentic. It feels like it's your product. And there are many ways to approach this. For example, if you want to build a stunning website, you can Google the top 10 websites in the world, and you can open up those websites and you can study the user interface, you can study the navigation, you can study the color schemes that they're using. Once you understand the product that they're using, you can implement some of those design ideas and apply it on your own website. And then once you build your website, you can do some user testing and see what the reaction is. If the reaction of the audience tells you that maybe this looks too generic, you can then go back and reiterate and redesign it in such a way where it feels like it's yours. But copying greatness is not something that people should frown upon. I think copying greatness is something that people should be inspired to do, because at the end of the day, every company has copied something from another company. And it's just how great ideas are created. One person cannot do everything. One person can learn from what others are doing and implement what they have learned and use it for their own needs and for their own business.
Yeah, and that's another thing as well. I when I decided to step into the corporate side of life, or like self-corporate side of life, the creditor, if you will. When you step into that realm, it was important for me not to buy myself another job. I don't want to sit here and be a slave to my own vices and desires. It was important for me to develop something that was eventually going to be automated and larger than me. I was a part of a group that was called the Self-Expression and Leadership Program. And in that program, you had to manage another program or manage a community engagement project that, for long story short, helped empower a certain part of the community. Was a really systematic and developed way of you approaching this problem that you wanted to provide a solution to, or a situation you wanted to provide alleviation for. But at the end of it, you had to be able to step away from it. And I think that's powerful.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you have to be able to, or at least be willing to be able to separate yourself from the process.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can get consumed in it. Eckhart Tolle will talk about being in the power of now. And so
Yeah,
if
I
you're
love
in
that
that
book.
space, yes, it's really cool. I got an Audible. Shout out. Got an ebook on Audible too, random stanzas about culture, promo. But in that space, you start to understand what you want to give to the world. And that's time, that's effort, that's attention, that's focus. Some people want to be on LinkedIn, taking pictures all the time. And some people think that some people want to be on LinkedIn taking pictures all the time. But sometimes they have a photographer and they have someone who's doing their self-automated social media publishing, and they're telling them what to write. So being able to understand that you can have this approach, you can have this life, you can have these different things, these qualities, and it doesn't have to necessarily be about the riches, but knowing how to understand how to navigate the space and building your own business, you're probably going to get some money, right? You're going to start coming into some money if you do it right. You have a need, you feel a need, you approach it correctly, you ask the right people the right things, you're generally going to have some sort of success if you take your time, do it well, navigate the market, change with the market, add additions to your business. Those are things that you start to understand as you start from the bottom, work up, start from the top, work down in these different spaces. And for myself, for sure, I want to be able to be on a beach on my family's island. I want to have my own yacht and have a water plane and have my son and daughter be able to run up and down the shores of white sand beaches that are super soft, right? And then I want to be able to go into a meeting and, wearing the shirt that I made, right? And step into this meeting, virtual meeting, where I'm able to navigate and procure a large development deal. that's essentially going to feed the rest of my family for, 200, 300, 400 years, right? That's ideal for me. So that's kind of where the vision starts. And then
Yeah.
being able to understand that, man, that vision can really only, for me, the way I see it, the way it can only happen is by providing value. It's kind of,
Yeah.
it's a curse and a blessing, you know? Um, and yeah, that's like the redemptive quality, being able to like have, I want my success to be the success of others. Because I feel like that's like, that's more of a stronger foundation for years to come. That
Yeah.
sounds like it's more stronger for me to build a business around other people having success versus me getting success off of others and them not having access to it. I feel like it's more important to be able to show them like, hey, you can do this as well. Even if it's an app, or like even if it's like, hey, did you know that you can make money on surveys? Like, dude, some people do that, and that's their thing, and they live in another country where that's something that small amount of money to us go a long way for everyone else. So being
Yeah.
able to start a service where you can being able to, I don't know, right? But the
Yeah.
point is, when you step out the realm of, hey, I actually want to build something, you're generally going to have to do that not just as an employee. You're going to have to figure out how to navigate that as a business owner, because taxation wise, you're probably going to get the best benefit. Um, yeah, you're just gonna get the best benefit. That's the best benefit. That's the biggest
Yeah.
benefit. And
That
then
is
also
great,
the
man.
time, more obviously more importantly actually is the time. The time you get to spend with your family. Like, that's probably what's feeding your spirit more so than anything.
Yeah.
And starting to feel a need and understanding where things are starting and ending really is going to be a cool way for you to see where you provide value. And you know you learn from people, you learn the different things that have been the destruction of certain families or things like that, because you're paying attention to wanting to develop yourself and hopefully provide some value to the world in a positive way.
That's very profound. I like that you touched on, Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of the Now, and why awareness is so important, because a lot of people, and this is what most employees do in the 9 to 5 jobs, that they work like a zombie. And that's not how you run a business. When you run a business, you have to work outside your company. You cannot work inside your company. If you continue doing the redundant processes, you will never be able to think in the higher level. And that's why when you do the grunt work yourself, the moment you understand that, or the moment you feel like the work you're doing is redundant, that's when you have to think of automation. And that's something that will eventually, you will pick up with awareness, because awareness is so important. Because when you're doing something, learn it in and out, understand the process, because once you understand the process, you don't have to continue doing it. You can have someone else do it for you. But at the very early stages, you have to iterate, you have to fail several times to be able to create a process that works for you. And once you create a process that works for you, you can do something and make it your own. And in order to do that, you will first need to figure out what is the repetitive tasks of that process, and how you can automate those repetitive tasks by either using skills in coding or skills in outsourcing. And once you have done that, you can focus on the next big thing. And once you focus on the next big thing, again, same process, awareness, learn the process, understand how it works, and eventually get yourself out of the process. And that would be called the exit plan, the exit strategy, on how you develop a process. And that's what entrepreneurs do, right? Entrepreneurs create processes, they create systems, they create companies, they create businesses. And once they create that, their mind is so um, they're focused on so many different things that once they create something, they want to move on to the next thing. And that's important when you're an entrepreneur. You cannot focus on one thing forever. It's different if you're working for someone else and you're doing the same thing every day. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have to focus on the creative part the most. And it might take a lot of time and energy to build a system. But once you build a system, you have to think about how you can eventually get yourself out of there.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Trust me.
Yeah.
Unless it's just the creative process, but there are so many processes that don't need to be necessarily done by you. They just take time, and sometimes the coordination of processes is really where you should find yourself. And that provides you ample enough experience to put on your portfolio, resume, whatever you want to do in the long run. But immediately you're learning those foundational processes that you need to integrate eventually. And not to say that you lose your stake in the process, you lose your stake in the company or what have you, but Jeff Bezos walked away from Amazon. It happens. It's real. And as great as a designer as Ye is, it's like at some point he has a team of designers because he has a vision and he has people in the design space that have maybe software knowledge or other type of principle knowledge that is applied. I think he just did a deal with a gentleman who designs his Yeezy foam shoes to design a foam car, and he's going to be integrating that with some sort of Elon and Tesla or something like that. But who knows? But it's like being able to integrate that approach and and provide some sort of service in the long run. Hopefully it comes to fruition and is fruitful. For all those who embark on that path, man, that's the entrepreneur's journey for sure. It's like being able to provide value and retain your equitable recognition is like a paramount.
Yeah, and that's what makes Ye so great. He's an entrepreneur at heart. He knows how to connect the systems and build an ecosystem. And the marketing he does is just amazing. It's the kind of marketing that Coca-Cola would do. Or Apple would do, right? For
it's kind of like no marketing at all, and if you will,
just the awareness.
Right.
When the Donda album came out, he also came out with that device that would play the music, and it looked very futuristic, but it's really cool.
I need to get one, man. I need to play around and get one.
Yeah.
All right, so sold out or something.
Yeah, it's like a modern day iPod, but it's just so niched, right? It's just focused on promoting that album, right? Because when you purchase
and it actually has a lot of creative applications to it.
Yeah.
You can apply different music to it and start creating different sonic experiences with a track that you didn't even know. You can separate a song and dissect it. So in a face value, it's like, hey, I want the equitable recognition and being able to say hey, I want all the money that's supposed to come to me. And then, I give out the percentages as opposed to getting a percentage up front. It's like, hey, let me have everything in house and then I'll distribute what needs to be distributed. Now, whether or not it's recognized by major institutions, that's a different subject. But if he didn't do it for that, then it's at a different level of exposure that he wants to reach. Now, you can integrate other music into it, which is in the long run, who will know how valuable that insight is that he provided is, right? So maybe he felt like he was filling a need, or maybe he felt like he wanted all the dollars. But in the same process, he probably did both, and that's inadvertently kind of just being a creator, you can find yourself in that amazing space. So just find it, and understand that within the space of entrepreneurship, maybe you don't necessarily want to build a clothing company or build a virtual agency, but maybe you want to be able to manage funds. Maybe you want to get a vending machine, get an ATM, or learn how to manage certain contracts. Maybe that's just what you do. And then the rest of your time is spent doing what you want to do. Everybody wants to do what they want to do. So we're trying to figure out ways to automate certain processes so that we give our time to the things that we want. Because I don't think we want to necessarily give our time to another company 40 hours a week. I don't think we want to do that. But I think we're doing it as a necessity to provide income. So if we find a way to provide the income, now your choice, I feel like the water has cleared. That's important as you make these decisions, either spiritually and on this plane. It's like understanding how to navigate those. I think it's paramount, because ultimately we don't want to be giving our lives to these companies all the time for the rest of our lives. So at some point we need to figure out how to navigate that. Maybe you're putting up on a house and doing a syndicate group development, building an apartment or buying an apartment, and you just get cash flow. All you have to do is just replace your income, and so just figuring out different ways. It looks different for different people, and so don't get discouraged about saying, well, maybe I don't have skills. It's like, maybe your skills that you worked at a job for 10 years and you have good credit. So use your opportunity to go purchase property or do whatever you need to do to start making your money make more money for you, so that in the next 10 years you can say, like, cool, I got this retirement that I've been working at this company for. So you're maintaining that status, and then you also are properly allocating your assets, right? In the right bins. You got to put them in the right bins, with cash value life insurance, other types of tools like annuities, real estate, or maybe even a business, whatever that is, a business model. So it looks different for different people, but it's an entrepreneur's journey. You're going to learn how that looks like for you. And maybe it starts with understanding where to fill that need. So.
And the fact that you work for a big company, that could be an advantage for you, because you were put in a specific role where you were managing some part of the business. So once you work that 9-to-5 job, you have acquired the skills, and you can implement those skills when you create your own business, when you do your side hustle. So I think
I'm big on learning on someone else's dollar. So I agree. I agree with you, and not in a bad way. But it's like every job that you get, you should treat it like an internship. You should treat it like college, but you're getting paid for it.
Exactly. You have to have an exit plan, though. You can't continue working for the company for 10 or 20 years. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself in golden handcuffs, and this is like modern day slavery, right?
It's like a contract. It's like a sports contract. If you want me to sign up again for another year, I'm going to need X amount of dollars increase, because I got this veteran experience, and I've been putting up these numbers. It's like, that's how you have to treat it.
Yeah.
You have to treat it like it's a contract, because we're all corporations in that sense, and we all have like economic value. And you got to understand that, like someone were to hire you now, like, yo, you shouldn't be charging any less than X amount of dollars, and that's how you should feel about it. It's like, these are the things that I've been providing value to. And it sucks because the conversation is around the money that you'll be receiving constantly. I feel like people start an entrepreneurship journey because they want money, but you have to reconcile that this stuff comes with doing things that you probably really don't want to do. So you might as well find out a way to do those things where you feel like you're really providing value. You're going to be in spaces that make you feel uncomfortable, and when you have that vision locked in and you feel like you're really providing that value in the long run, like long, right? So the work that you do and filling that need is just, it pays, it's paying now, it's gonna pay in the future.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, yeah, I mean, that's crazy to think about, dude. Like centers, like offsite team centers, right? They're just like, who knows where that develops to, but it starts with the ground level, and understanding how to navigate that.
And doing what you don't like to do is very important part of the process, because it might not be fun to do, but when you do it, awareness is important, because when you pay attention to what you're doing, it will allow you to understand on a higher level on how the system's working. And once you understand how the system's working, you know right then and there that this is how I can automate this. And eventually you can do what you love to do. But in order to do what you love to do, you first have to do a lot of groundwork. And that groundwork can involve working for a company for a few years to get that experience and develop some skills. And once you have those skills, make the best use of them. But remember, always set yourself a deadline, always have an end goal, and always have an escape plan, so you're not stuck in the rut forever. Because if you're stuck in the rut forever, you're just going to live a very comfortable life, paycheck to paycheck, and you will never be inspired.
Or if COVID happens and you get ousted,
then you're in bigger trouble. And yeah,
right.
And then,
it's like, it's either way, it's bad.
Yeah, and that contract that you sign will not protect you when there's an economic downfall. So always remember, like, it's not about that paycheck. It's about what you can do and how you can learn from what you put yourself into and what you can get out of it, and how you can replicate that and build multiple systems in place that generate income for you.
Yeah, right. It looks different for different people. For me, that beach, right? Like, for real, investor, big business is definitely where I wanna, where I find myself. And it looks different for different people, but at least knowing how to navigate the system, it's more beneficial to come from a business owner standpoint. So I would definitely look into that for sure. It's a powerful move, and you'll start to see that starting to feel the need is actually getting into that space. It's actually very necessary for your family, for you to start moving as a business and corporation entity, if you will, because of the different qualities of experience that you can have and that business can have. It can really change some things for you when you start to navigate and understand how it works for you.
Yeah.
It's kind of how this place works.
Yeah, and then you can create influence, so that influence will help you attract more people who believe in the same mission and vision. And once you exit out of the company that you've built, that mission, the vision, the inspiration will live on, and it will live on. The other people will run the company for you.
You're not alone, man.
Yeah.
You're not alone. They say, what do they say? I've heard someone say that when it's raining, so they said the money is like rain, right? And when it rains on me, and let's say someone's my neighbor, it doesn't not rain on them. It's raining on them as well, right? And so the analogy that they had was, if money is like rain, or if it's just like plentiful, it's everywhere. There's actually a lot of money everywhere. And if we know how to navigate, it's just like, it could come to you. You just like set up a net and it just like goes in there, whether that's online or whatever that is. And we're working so hard for this stuff, and it's energetically everywhere. If we know how to navigate that, all you need to do is just have a bucket. Just have your buckets out. If you have your buckets out, you capture the opportunity, because the opportunity is everywhere. If you start thinking opportunities everywhere, where else, where wouldn't it be? You would create opportunity out of nothing. You know, and when you start going into these spaces or just understanding to change a mind shift, not even if you want to be an entrepreneur, just a mind shift to understanding how to approach this life is, dude, the opportunities everywhere. You know,
Yep.
and if you can get
We
that
just have to
opportunity
seek for
tapped
it.
down, you got to seek for it, man.
Yep.
You gotta, sometimes you don't have to seek for it. In the sense
Yep.
of like what you're saying is you just have to like look. Sometimes you just gotta look at what's going on, you know, and it happens to all of us. Like there goes the power of now again. Is sometimes we're staring at something and we don't
Mhm.
look at it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we look at a tree, but we don't see what that tree really is. It's like
Hmm.
it's a 200-year-old being that's been in the ground, been in this area for, you know, longer than, you know, 5 of me, 6 of me, right? So it's like, I don't know, man. Things are different, and if we approach things with that presence, it's like, how can you not win? Because the
Yep.
universe, you know, God, all that is on your side. That power, it's powerful, you know, because there's times where you want to give up. So it's starting with the ground level. You got to build a strong foundation.
Yep. And we have to believe, and a lot of people think that money is scarce, but money does grow on trees. Money does rain on everybody.
Yeah,
It's
that's
all
funny.
about, like, this
It does.
country, at least the United States, doesn't have a money problem. Um, if you think about it, the United States has a spending problem, right? There's a lot of money, and it's all about
Hmm.
finding finding the opportunity to collect that money and make something out of it. Because eventually, if you think about it, money is just fuel to an engine, right? It's all about the engine, not the fuel. I mean, the fuel is important to fuel the engine, but without the engine, the fuel has no value, right? So,
No, I believe that to be true as well. It's like
yeah,
you got to muster it up. You know, you got to be able to build that reservoir.
yeah, it's very important. But I'm really glad that, we had this discussion about starting to fill a need, because we all have to think about ways and how we can fulfill something and, you know make something out of it. So this will help us create something. And once you have an idea, once you have some systems in place, the next topic that we'll touch on the next episode would be formalizing that effort and how we can do certain things that will allow us to put the ink in paper. So that's what we have for today. So thank you very much for listening to this episode, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the next one.
It's a pleasure, man. Thank you. Until
Yeah.
next time.